Friends, it is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here with you in God's own country, among God's own people. Today is a historic day. The first elected government of the Aam Aadmi took oath of office at Ram Leela Maidan today. How did this journey begin, and what does the Aam Aadmi Party signify? We have seen the kind of all-pervasive, deep-rooted corruption that has taken hold of all parts, virtually all parts of the country. Of course, in Kerala you are a little better off than in most other parts of the country. But this corruption has become so pervasive, so deep-rooted, that it is now eating away the vitals of this country, leading the country to anarchy, chaos, and civil war. If you see what kind of effects corruption has had on this country, at the first level, corruption, of course, eats away the money, the resources which should be used for the benefit of the common people. But even more importantly, corruption has led to the formulation of policies which are against public interests, which are destroying the environment, which are finishing off our natural resources so rapidly that we will leave nothing for the future generations of this country. Policies which are taking away the basic means of survival of the poorest people in the country, the Adivasis, the scheduled castes, taking away their land, their forests, their water, and snatching it to give it to the largest corporations in this country for their profits. This has virtually forced some of these tribals to pick up arms and join the Maoists, which the Prime Minister calls the single biggest internal security threat to this country. Why has this threat been created? It has been created by these corrupt policies of the government, which policies, as I said, are not being formulated in public interest, but for corrupt considerations are being formulated for the commercial benefit of large corporations in this country. But the most serious and insidious impact of corruption in the country has been that it has led to the creation of a corporate mafia which sits on top of the entire ruling establishment of the country and which controls virtually every aspect of this establishment. To see what kind of effect this mafia has, or the kind of control this mafia has over the ruling establishment, you need to listen to the Radia tapes. Neera Radia was the corporate lobbyist of some of the largest corporations in the country, including Reliance and Tata. Her phones were tapped by the income tax department because they had suspected her being involved in money laundering, various kinds of fraud, etc. Fortunately for the people of this country, some of her taped conversations became public. When you listen to those conversations, you come to understand and realize the extent of control that these large corporations have come to have over all aspects of the ruling establishment of this country. You see from those conversations that these large corporations like Reliance and Tata are today deciding who will be in the cabinet, who will not be in the cabinet. They are deciding who will speak in parliament, what he will speak in parliament. They are deciding what laws will be passed, what laws will not be passed. They are deciding who will be appointed secretaries in various ministries in the government, who will be appointed regulators. They are deciding what will be published in the major newspapers in this country, what will not be published. And worst of all, you find from those conversations that the large political parties in this country have virtually become their puppets. Just two conversations will help to illustrate this. There is one conversation that Neera Radia has with Ranjan Bhattacharya, who was or is the son-in-law of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. In that conversation, Ranjan Bhattacharya tells Neera Radia that I met Mukesh Ambani the other day and I told him that you must be very happy because all your people have become ministers. This is in 2009 when the second Manmohan Singh government was formed. His cabinet had just been constituted. So Ranjan Bhattacharya, the son-in-law of Vajpayee, is telling Mukesh Ambani that you must be very happy because all your people have become ministers. Mukesh Ambani tells him, some feedback, is it off or on? Off. Mukesh Ambani tells him, is there any other mic which is on? It's all right, it's okay. Mukesh Ambani tells him, हाँ भाई, कांग्रेस तो अब अपनी दुकान है. Means, yes, Congress is our shop now, which means that Reliance or Ambani can go and buy anything that it wants from the Congress. It can buy the ministers, it can buy their secretaries, it can buy the regulators, anybody that they want. This is what he says. But there is another conversation between Neera Radia and N.K. Singh which illustrates that it is not merely the Congress, it is also the BJP which is their shop. N.K. Singh was the Finance Secretary of the Government of India, later became a member of the Planning Commission and is now a JanaSabha member of the JDU party. N.K. Singh tells Neera Radia in that conversation that these days I am working on one particular clause of the finance bill, that's the budget, presented by Pranab Mukherjee in Parliament. He says that there is one provision in that bill which will give a huge retrospective tax concession to this Reliance company. Only to this Reliance company. That provision is introduced only to give tax concession to Reliance company. He says that I have been told, I understand that Arun Shourie was going to speak in the Rajya Sabha on behalf of the BJP and he is going to oppose this bill. And if he opposes this bill, then Pranab Mukherjee will not be able to get this bill passed. Because it's a dishonest provision. Everybody knows it's a dishonest provision. It has been smuggled into the budget. But if Arun Shourie opposes it openly in the Rajya Sabha, then Pranab Mukherjee will not have the guts or the gumption to get this provision passed. This is what he says. But then he says, I have, however, got the BJP leadership. I have spoken to the leadership of the BJP and I have got them to replace Arun Shourie with Venkaiah Naidu. Venkaiah Naidu was the president of the BJP. And then they discuss, they say that Venkaiah Naidu is our man. He will do exactly what we say. And then they discuss that they will send a senior officer of Reliance Company to brief him about what he must say in Parliament, that he must support this bill, this provision. And this is exactly what happened. Arun Shourie, in his interview with Karan Thapar, revealed that yes, he was to speak in the Rajya Sabha. He had been told by the BJP leadership that you will speak on behalf of the party in the Rajya Sabha. He says that he had prepared for 1 week to speak on this issue and he was going to oppose this provision strongly. He was going to expose how dishonest this provision was. And at the last minute, he says, just before he was supposed to speak in the Rajya Sabha, he was told by the BJP leadership that he will not be speaking. In his place, Venkaiah Naidu will be speaking. And Venkaiah Naidu went and supported that bill, that provision in the finance bill. This shows that the entire top leadership of the BJP is in the pocket of Reliance. And that is why when this cabinet recently, 1 week ago, the union cabinet took a decision, dishonest, utterly dishonest decision to hike the gas price being paid to Reliance from the KG basin by to double the gas price, which would mean the transfer of several lakh crores of public money just into the pockets of this one company, Reliance. Nobody in the BJP, not Mr. Modi, nobody said a word against that. The only parties that spoke against that were the left parties, particularly the CPI. But nobody in the BJP, nobody among the other major mainstream parties in the country spoke against it. We had done a major expose of this whole gas of Reliance, this whole gas business, the gas contract, etc., the kind of illegal, unfair concessions that had been given to them in November last year. Nobody from the BJP, nobody from the other opposition parties dared to say anything against Reliance or against even the Congress party on that issue. Because all of them, or most of them, are in the pay of these companies. So therefore, the most sinister and dangerous consequence of corruption has been to create this mafia in this country, which has become the biggest threat to democracy in the country. When we saw all this, we thought that something has to be done about corruption. And one of the things, or one of the most important things that needs to be done is to put in place an independent anti-corruption machinery. Because today, all the investigative machineries which investigate cases of corruption are controlled by the same people who need to be investigated. Therefore, how can you expect those agencies to honestly and independently investigate those very people who have full administrative control over those officers? So we drafted this Jan Lokpal bill for the creation of a completely independent anti-corruption investigative machinery. As you know, there was a very large-scale countrywide movement in support of the Jan Lokpal bill. Every opinion poll, every survey, every referendum was showing that at least 80% people in the country supported the Jan Lokpal bill. But despite that, neither the government nor the parliament nor the major political parties agreed to bring the Jan Lokpal bill and pass the Jan Lokpal bill. Instead, what they have passed is a pathetic bill in the name of a Lokpal bill, in which the Lokpal has not even been given an independent anti-corruption investigating machinery. What's the use if you create an institution called the Lokpal, but then you say that they must use the government-controlled investigative agencies to investigate cases of corruption? How do you expect them to independently investigate? So you have created an empty box called Lokpal, which has nothing. Moreover, the appointment of the Lokpal is still controlled by the politicians, namely Prime Minister, Speaker and Leader of Opposition. And we have seen the same system is in place for selecting the National Human Rights Commission, for selecting the Central Vigilance Commission, and we have seen that this system fails to select independent people for these positions because, by and large, because the leader of opposition also has the same interest, because he has also been a minister, he may also be investigated by the same Lokpal. Therefore, all of them want a weak and pliable person appointed in that Lokpal. In our Jan Lokpal bill, we had suggested a 7-member selection committee in which 5 were independent people. Only the Prime Minister and Leader of Opposition meant only 2 politicians in a selection committee of 7 people. But here 3 out of 4 are politicians, and the 5th person is also appointed by them. So therefore, effectively 4 out of 5 are people who have a conflict of interest in the selection committee in the government's bill. So what we found was that here is a situation, theoretically we say that we are a democracy, which means that this country is supposed to be governed by the will of the people. Here was a situation where the will of the people clearly was in favor of the Jan Lokpal bill, but yet the government and the parliament were refusing to budge on this issue, and they were constantly telling and taunting us, who are you? We are the elected representatives of the people. Why should we do what you want? We will do what we want. We represent the will of the people. And therefore, if you have the guts, you come and contest elections against us and defeat us in elections. Where was this arrogance springing from? Why were they so arrogant? Why did they feel that here is a situation where every opinion poll is showing that 80% people support the Jan Lokpal bill, and yet they feel so confident that these people, even if they form a political party and contest elections, they cannot defeat us in elections. What was the reason for their arrogance? Because they believed, and to some extent rightly so, that in this kind of electoral system that we have in this country, no honest party, no honest group of people can defeat these parties who have enormous money power, who have the power of patronage over these large corporations from whom they can get thousands or even lakhs of crores. They felt that no honest political party can defeat these parties who have the patronage and who have among them these criminals and muscle men who who come into play in elections, they felt that they can get away by spending their money, by bribing voters just the day before the elections, or by using that money to advertise themselves, or by using that money to get thousands of trucks and buses filled with people to attend their rallies, etc., which make it appear to the people as if these 2-3 political parties are the only parties which are in the fray in an election. See, this arrogance stems from some deep-rooted flaws in our electoral system. Firstly, as I pointed out, we have a serious problem with our democracy. Because in our democracy, our only democratic right is the right to vote once in 5 years to elect our representative. During the next 5 years, the elected representatives decide everything, all important decisions, whether a nuclear power plant will be set up, whether a large dam will be made, whether genetically modified foods will be allowed. Every decision is taken by them without asking the people as to what they want or do not want. Most of these decisions are today being taken on the basis of corrupt considerations because of bribes that they receive from large corporations in whose commercial interest they take these decisions, whether it is policy decisions, whether you have a policy of allowing FDI in retail, whether you have a policy of expanding nuclear power, or even decisions about laws. Whether the Special Economic Zone Act, which was passed without any discussion in Parliament, just because some large companies wanted to grab thousands and thousands of acres of land in the name of special economic zones on which huge amounts of government concessions were to be given. Nobody asked the people. There was not even any discussion in Parliament. Bill was just brought and passed in 3 minutes. Such a bill which is going to have such an enormous impact on literally lakhs of farmers in the country whose land will be taken away in the name of special economic zones, is passed without any discussion among the people, without taking the consent of the people, and without even any discussion in Parliament. So therefore, we realize that there are fundamental problems in our democracy. We have a nominal representative democracy in this country. We call this a democracy, but this is not really a democracy. Democracy means rule by the will of the people, which means that all important decisions, all policy decisions, all laws should eventually rest on the will of the people. We have no such system in place. And therefore we realize that we need fundamental changes in the democratic system in this country. We need decentralization of power, and at the local level, we need direct democracy, which means that the people will directly decide in every Gram Sabha, in every Mohalla Sabha, what will be done there, what will not be done there, where the money will be spent, etc. Everything will be decided by the people directly by means of physical assemblies of the Gram Sabha, physical assembly of the Mohalla Sabha, which will take these decisions. The local officials for implementing their decisions will also work under the complete administrative control of these local people. That is direct democracy at the local level. Now, you cannot have direct democracy at higher levels, that is at the district level or the state level or at the national level. Therefore, but you can still bring a measure of control of the people over decision making by a method of initiatives and referendums. This means that if 1% people in the country sign a petition saying that they want the Jan Lokpal bill, then the Jan Lokpal bill is put to a national referendum, and if more than half the people vote in favor of the Jan Lokpal bill, it automatically becomes law. It does not have to go to Parliament. So there the people will have the right to pass their own law on a matter which they feel is important enough, where sufficient number of people are agitated enough to prepare and sign a petition and present it to Parliament, then the matter has to be put to a national referendum. Similarly, if 1% people want the SEZ Act to be withdrawn, they can sign a petition, the matter will be put to a national referendum. If the majority of the people want it to be withdrawn, the SEZ Act will cease to exist. Similarly, any matter of policy or any decision, like the Kudankulam nuclear power plant, if it's a district issue, the referendum would be at the district level. If it's a state issue, the referendum would be at the state level. If it's a national issue, the referendum would be at the national level. So that gives the people a measure of control over the decisions which would normally be taken by Parliament or by the government, but the people would have the right to change those decisions. Similarly, we do not have any right to recall. That means, even if we find that the representative whom we elected is misbehaving, is acting against our interests, we have no right to recall him till the end of his term. And even at the end of his term, when he comes up for election, he has this arrogance. He believes that because he has money power, he can virtually buy the election. And this brings me to the fundamental flaws in our electoral system. We have first passed the post at two levels. That means the candidate who gets the maximum number of votes gets elected, even if he gets only 25% of the vote. If all the other candidates have received less votes than him, then he gets elected, even if all the other candidates together have got 3 times as many votes as he has. Which means that virtually the person who enjoys the confidence of only 25% people comes to be the sole representative of that constituency. And these remaining 75% people's vote counts for nothing. Now this is unfair at two levels. Firstly, a lot of people who want to vote for a particular candidate or a party who they feel is the best candidate or the party are not able to vote for that candidate or that party because they feel that he has no chance of winning and their vote will be wasted. And then therefore they are forced to choose from the lesser of the two evils from among the two largest parties that they see are the main players in this political game. And how do you see which are the main political parties, which are the players? And that is on the basis of the kind of exposure that they get, which is largely achieved by use of money. And that is why these political parties had this arrogance when they kept challenging us. You come and contest elections, you show us, you defeat us in elections, let us see. Again and again they were taunting us and challenging us. And eventually when we saw that this country needs serious fundamental systemic reforms, it needs virtually a political revolution in this country. We need fundamental democracy reforms, electoral reforms, judicial reforms, police reforms, administrative reforms, but none of these political parties, these mainstream political parties which are enjoying the fruits of power because of these corrupted systems that we have in place in this country, are going to do these reforms. Eventually we realized that there is no other way. We had not gone in this anti-corruption movement thinking that we will form a political party and contest elections. We had no such intention. We thought that we will put democratic pressure on the government and on the parliament and virtually force them to bring about these corruption reforms in the country. But when we found that this is not going to happen, because these parties believe that no honest party can defeat them in elections, then we had to bite the bullet And we had to take this hard decision, this unpleasant decision, which we didn't want to take, but we were forced to take this decision that all right, now we will form a political party, we will have to contest elections, and however difficult it might be, we have to defeat these mainstream political parties, and then only we will be able to, once we come in parliament, we will be, at least once we have to come into parliament in order to change the whole political game or the nature of this political system in this country. And the Delhi elections and the results there have shown that we have succeeded at least in the first step. And the result of the Delhi election has sent an enormous wave of hope and enthusiasm among literally millions, crores of people in the country who had become despondent, who had become despairing, who had become cynical that nothing can change in this country, that we are condemned to live under these corrupt political parties and this corrupted political system. Nothing can be done. We are helpless. The situation is hopeless. Nobody can do anything to change this. This was the feeling that was gathering force among people in this country. And this Delhi election has changed that, because it has shown that it is possible to defeat these forces. If it is possible, if a courageous set of people go out with the single-mindedness of purpose, with clarity in their mind, with this vision of systemic reforms rather than just changing the face of those who are in power, then it is possible to defeat these corrupted political parties and at least try and change the system. Now, there is an enormous challenge ahead of us. This is just the beginning of this fight. We have won our first fight in this, but there is a long war ahead. There is a long war ahead. We have to now prove that we are capable of good governance, that it is possible to deliver on the promises that we had made in Delhi to the people of Delhi in our manifesto. And that is what our party's priority in Delhi is. We have to now build a credible organization in all parts of the country. We have to get high quality individuals involved in the party. Our party so far does not have the kind of depth that it needs. We are a few people. We have a large team of volunteers, etc. But we also need to add more depth to the party by getting really high quality individuals who are mature, sensible, who have thought through issues, who have understood issues, who are selfless, committed to public interest, willing to play as a team, and don't have very large egos. There are such people in this country. We need to integrate them, involve them with this whole effort. Even if they do not want to become members of the party, we should involve them as advisors, as members of our policy teams, etc. Because the job is enormous, the challenges are enormous. As I said, we have come out to change the entire nature of this political system, to empower the common man. That's the key. We need to empower the common man to take control of his own destiny, of his life in this country. Today he is helpless. He is helpless in the hands of the police. He is helpless in the hands of the judiciary, all of which have become corrupted, all of which have become undemocratic, all of which have become anti-people. He is helpless at the hands of the administration, and above all, he is helpless at the hands of these politicians who take their votes once in 5 years, but then sit on the chest of these people and rule them on the basis of bribes that they receive from these large corporations, etc. So we have to change this whole system. We have to empower the people. The hurdles in our way are also enormous. All these corrupt forces which are today ruling, the corporates, these large political parties, will now try and somehow puncture us, somehow show that we are bad, somehow try and destroy us by any means possible. Therefore, the challenges are huge. And in order to face and overcome these challenges, we need to involve large number of people across the country. We need to now open our doors, open our hearts, bring in everybody, and bring in particularly, of course, people who come in should be honest. They should not have these kind of corrupt vested interests. And we need in particular to bring in these high quality individuals also who are mature, sensible, who have thought through things, and who are committed to public interest. So this is the challenge, my friends. Everything is at stake. The future, on the one hand, we are staring at anarchy. If the system continues as it is, this country is headed for complete anarchy, complete breakdown of law and order, civil war, everything. So everything is at stake. On the other hand, we can, if we are truly able to empower the people of this country, if we are truly able to bring about this systemic reforms and this political revolution that is the core of our vision, then we have a completely new kind of country before us, where all kinds of people can live together without having to fight on caste, communal lines, etc., where all these 49% children who are today suffering from malnutrition can be lifted out of that, where everybody will be able to get good quality education, reasonable quality health care, will be able to have a reasonable house with them, and will all be able to get at least some kind of job, some reasonable job. So therefore, the stakes are enormous, the challenges are enormous, but it is now up to us to take up those challenges, to now embrace many more people who are today enthused, excited, hopeful about this experiment.